Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Any current or former Leos on here want to share some creepy stories you've seen on the job?
Not my story, but my dad's from back in the mid-90s. Sheriff's deputy. Gets a call about suspicious activity at an old abandoned mental asylum. Future/X/posters probably doing some urban exploring. Goes in with his partner, making lots of noise and knocking stuff over to scare away kids so they don't have to arrest them and make a scene. Police here. Everybody get the hell out. Silence followed by loud moving upstairs, like people scraping furniture against the floor. His partner says to wait here in case any come running out and he'll check upstairs, cursing to himself about getting jumped by a homeless junkie or needing a tetanus shot for all this. Hear him banging around upstairs. Then silence, then fast footsteps. He's speeding, walking down the stairs, look of screw this on his face. Keeps telling my dad calmly but firmly to leave with him. Get out to the cruiser, won't tell Dad what he saw, but he assures him to just leave. Never officially find out what it was, but he's led on that it was a ghost and or demon-looking thing that was just sitting up there waiting for him. He doesn't spook easily and is actually really into paranormal investigations, ghost hunting, urban exploration, and all other /X/related stuff. But he will straight up tell you to not go to the place, and nothing will get him to go back. It's got all the history of places like that, tortured patients, self-termination, suspicious deaths, etc. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's something there. Sort of lame, but it's all I got.
My uncle used to tell me and my older brothers this story all the time. We still talk about it. Uncle M is a Florida state trooper for 15 years at the time. Fall of 1992. Gets a call about a family who claimed there was an unwanted man in the house. Arrive at the location. Massive apartment complex, about 12 apartments in total. Callers were a working-class Hispanic family. On one of the higher floors, a woman was in the corner of a living room in an apartment with no power, dimly lit in a few rooms with oil lamps, on a love seat that was pulled away from the other furniture, holding her 2 daughters while her son sat next to her. Assumed the father was sitting next to the chair. The apartment is smoldering hot. Mother is babbling in Spanish about her children being taken away somewhere she couldn't get them by some guy. He didn't know the language fluently. Uncle and his partner searched the place profusely to find no one. No signs of a break-in or anything. Goes back in to ask a few questions about who they thought it could be. She's clearly extremely distressed, trying to explain they wouldn't find him but needed help. My uncle being frustrated with the fact she made no sense but desperately wanting to help her. He tried to let her know no one was there, and that they could even dispatch a deputy to watch the perimeter for a few hours. Just as he begins to leave, he hears this massive deep wail coming from one of the back rooms. Partner draws his gun and disappears into the back of the house while my uncle stays to make sure no one comes after the family. Another loud wail. This one deeply unsettled my uncle. Mother screams, frantically reciting scripture. Deputy returns, face drained of all color. The trooper tried to get the deputy to explain what was wrong as he went back himself to investigate. Last loud wail, Uncle said it had no cadence, like it was the voice of a human coming out of an animal. He still finds nothing. Uncle, not being a believer or disbeliever, has no idea what the hell to make of what is happening. Calls in 2 more deputies and another trooper, who also finds nothing. Uncle convinces grandmother of the family to take them in for safety purposes. Driving back to the station, Uncle's partner tells my uncle he saw what he described to be a broken man look into the window of a laundry room and disappear next to a tree. He said his features seemed distorted and disoriented him, and he wasn't sure what to make of what he saw. The deputy said all he felt was that drop in your stomach when you think you see something in the dark or when you get in trouble. Amplified.
I only got one. A shot detection ping comes in. Shot spotter detects 12 gunshots coming from a particular intersection. We get the 911 call from the same location. Witnesses call in to report a shooting. We haul ass over there. Me and my field training officer get on scene. I'm a rookie at this time. Shooter apparently fled in a car in some other direction. We advise other units to set up a perimeter, stop traffic, Look for the suspect vehicle, etc. I get told to start CPR on the guy who got shot while medical arrives. It's bad, dude took several rounds to the chest, and one to the side of his head. I can see brain matter coming out of his head, yet he's still breathing. I start chest compressions. Blood is coming out of his mouth. He's drowning in his own blood, it's pointless. I continue chest compressions anyway to keep the bystanders at bay because they think I'm actually saving his life. Dude starts having a spasm and he gurgles, 306 inches, then goes limp. I figured that was his death throw, and somehow the phrase 306 inches was somehow forced out of his windpipe. A week later, our squad got put on guard duty outside of this guy's viewing. The guy was apparently in a gang, and we were to sit nearby in case there was some sort of retaliatory drive-by at the viewing. Sure enough, there is one. The driver drives by the building and starts shooting at the mortuary where this dead dude's viewing was. We hear the gunfire and pull around the corner to give chase. The shooter crashes trying to flee us and is taken into custody. The last 3 digits of the car's license plate was 306.
Work as an Los Angeles sheriff's deputy in the jails while waiting to be sent to a patrol station. Here's a few things I've experienced or have had told to me during my time working there. Work graveyard shift. Walk by an old door that has long been sealed shut. All lights are out. Hear quick knocking on the door. Go to reach for the door handle only to have a chill up my spine. Remind me that the room is locked and empty for years. Remind myself not to engage in it. Walk away. Had a month of multiple inmates getting transferred to psych evaluation for seeing a demon. All described a similar entity. Blue inmate uniform with the head of a pig and dreadlocks. Sit squatting in front of cell bars, staring at them. None of the inmates that saw this were in the same cell. The cell that housed Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, and later O.J. Simpson, I was told. Frequently has inmates go to mental observation housing for hearing voices. None of them know of the former occupants. I have some more if you guys are interested, but I'm gonna sleep now. Buddy of mine went into an empty housing area and went into the officer's cage. All lights are off in this area. So dark you can't see your hand in front of your face. Heard someone walking downstairs to the other officer's cage, which was empty. Shines a flashlight to see who was there. Cage is empty, but the computer chair is spinning. Nobody was found to be in there with him. Multiple partners have claimed to have seen a ghost inmate that runs through the halls at night. One of my partners had once seen this ghost inmate and chased after it. It ran out into a hall near a showering area. When he arrived, nobody was to be found, and the only exit around was the locked and sealed door to one of the underground tunnels that connects to the courthouse next door. These tunnels were only ever used with Charles Manson. I once walked through an empty housing area only to get spooked out when I heard the bars to the empty cell gate start to shake. Years prior, an inmate was shanked on that row, wrapped in a trash bag and stuffed under a bunk. The victim wasn't found until hours later.
I live in South America. Cops there are basically just organized crime. In high school, we have this spring dance thing coming up. Girl I know is super sad because her dad's a cop and nobody has the balls to ask her out for it. Literally starts crying when telling me and this other girl about it. Other girl is giving me the look. I give her the hell no. Friend tells her maybe she should be the one to ask the guy out, nodding in my direction. Oh no. Anon, wanna take me to the dance? She looked so sad and I didn't know what to do, so I said yes. She's all happy now, telling me what she's wearing and asking what I'm wearing and all that crap. The night of the dance, I go to her house. Her father, in full uniform, has put every gun in the house on the living room table. Said he was just doing some house cleaning. We sit in total silence. He's staring me down like an animal, and I'm just giving him a pic related in return. We leave, he whispers in my ear. You be good to her, son, or so help me God it'll hurt. My face went again. We drove in an unmarked sedan with two, also armed, off-duty cops giving me the same dead silent stare down as the living room. My face went again. Go to the dance, have a good time, but I see both guards at the doors. Anytime I head towards them, they just shake their heads and I turn ass and walk back. Every few minutes I look over. If I'm not giving her enough attention or too much attention, they let me know with a series of nods. Drop her off. She gives me a kiss. I turn around and her dad is staring at me through the blinds, not even making an effort to hide. I'll let you guess the face I made. Comes out as I leave, gives me a brand new watch for being a good guy. That night was the closest I've ever come to death, consecutively, over and over again.
Time for a spoopy story. Cop at a beach town, working midnight shift, doing a walking beat, foot patrols. Man comes running up to me and my partner. Says he's seen a woman in white walking up and down the beach crying. For reference, there's a ghost story in my town about a woman whose baby drowned in the ocean. She then drowned herself. Then she appears on some nights. Yeah, probably just a prank or something. Slow night. Decide to entertain this guy. I thought the guy was on heroin or something. It's a big thing in my town. Me and my partner walk to this part of the beach. Don't see anyone. Tell the guy to fuck off. After he leaves, I look closer at the beach, which I could see clearly due to a full moon. Holy shit. Footprints going back and forth parallel to the waterline. No footprints going to or from the boardwalk. No signs of a boat being landed near that location. Approach the location of footsteps. On an 85-degree night, the air around this particular spot was around 60 degrees. People often say cops have a heightened sixth sense. I don't know if that's true, but both my partner and I started feeling very uncomfortable when we were near that place. Now we often do patrols that go past it, just to see if we can catch a glimpse of something. There's also a haunted mansion that I got called to once. Anyone want to read that story?
Yeah.
Very well. The mansion is an old governor's mansion, rumored to be extremely haunted due to self-ends and shit like that. Now it's a house for a rich millionaire. Get a call from the mansion. 911 hang-up. That's never good. Millionaire is on vacation and informed us of a housekeeper on the property. Hitch a ride in a cruiser heading that direction. We were still on a walking beat. Every available unit was heading that way anyway. Get there. Clear the house room by room, get to the top floor of the house. Clearing the last room. Find the housekeeper in a corner with a knife, spooked out of her mind. Calm her down, ask her what happened, etc. States that she was new to her job and that she was just doing her job, looking after the house, etc. Shit started banging around the house. She heard yelling. She had tried calling 911, but the fuses had flipped on and off or something. No apparent signs of shit banging or anything. The supervisor continues taking her statement. All of a sudden, one of the officers outside yells, "Attic, attic, attic." Apparently, nobody had cleared the attic, and an officer had seen a figure in curtains move up there. Call in the K9EEs, I'm not going up there. Send K9s into the attic. Nothing is happening, no screaming or anything. Go in there, nothing. Dogs just be chilling. Blame it on the wind. Get the homeowner on the phone, explain the situation, tells us that it's not a big deal. The housekeeper quits the job that day. Screw that house. I've heard the older cops on the force tell scary-ass stories about that house, but that's the only one I've had so far.
Get a job as campus security at a college. It helped put me through school, and I let kids go for weed and alcohol charges all the time. One night I'm patrolling when I see somebody creeping around a house on the outskirts of the campus. It was away from the dorms and buildings, near the professors' houses. Great, I get to bust some student trying to sleep with his teacher. I get closer and hear children's laughter. I creep up to the guy in the bushes. Lights on in the living room so I can see inside. It's one of the professor's 13-year-old daughters having a slumber party. Aw, hell nah. Grab the perv by his shoulders and drag him out, making a scene and alerting the whole block. Other campus PD show up. Town PD shows up. My face when it ended being the professor's 37-year-old brother-in-law.
So I had a job at the beach when I was 16, manning concession stands, taking tickets, etc. So one summer, this shit happened. Get to the beach early, tidying stuff up before the day. Along the beach is an old-ass stone wall. Parts of it are crumpling. see red stuff on a section of it, go over and find a rabbit dead and hidden between some stones. Probably an animal, but it didn't look eaten with just one injury, and an animal would have taken it. Whatever, get a janitor, and he tosses it. 2 weeks later, and I've forgotten about it. Until I get to the parking lot one morning and see everyone standing over another dead rabbit. This once right in the middle of the lot, disemboweled. Okay, weird. Again, this doesn't seem like an animal. We toss it again. I tell my boss about the first one, and he just laughs it off. This time we don't forget about it. Everyone is talking about there being some kind of coyote or something loose, and me ringing up the first crime scene didn't help. 1 week later, we find a third, all slashed up and lynched with some fishing line under the playground swing set. Staff meeting. Do we call the cops or not? Do we tell the parents or not? Am I going to get stabbed or not, etc., etc.? The boss asks a few late-night workers to keep an eye on things, and that's it. Still nothing, until a parent finds a pair of dead rabbits half buried under the jungle gym. Line out the door of my boss's office of soccer mums. His new plan was to hire an exterminator and hunt an imaginary fox so it looked like we did something. The exterminator finds nothing and gets paid $500. All the while, I'm reading up on this. Find out about sexual killers and how torturing animals is a warning sign. I ask a cop at my high school about this kind of stuff because he was big into true crime, and he gives me the rundown of serial killers and animals abusers and proper investigation techniques, or as best as I could do them given the circumstances. A few of us get together and plan a stakeout because we're sick of this shit getting in the way of our not working. Heavy-ass mag lights and walkie-talkies, patrolling like some 80s movie henchman. The one night we take a break, he strikes again and leaves a decapitated bunny on the ticket booth. Great. He's been watching us. Some guys get spooked and quit, only me. 2 other guys my age and many of the 40-year-old gardeners stay to do our stakeouts. Everyone has a mag light and some other weapon, like a pocket knife, or one kid took his mum's mace. Spread out so it looks like the place is empty. Around midnight, I see some guy hanging around the show stalls. Call in the team. We creep up, but he sees us and takes off. Hot pursuit. I'm running in the sand and it's difficult. Full-on dead sprint after that. The beach is set up like the actual beach and stands part. Then the parking lot area, then after that, some grass follows into a forest. Chased him down. He looked a little older than me, so I didn't want to try and actually take him down. The rest of them catch up, lose the guy as he heads to the wooded area. Screw that. I'm not going in there. Fill out a police report. No dead rabbits after that. Get a job at Home Depot later. Lame ending and overall not the most scary story, but I still look at news articles from my area and see if any serial killers or Chris Chans turn up.
My buddy does security at a casino where self-terminations and gang activity are fairly common. This is a story he once told me. Patrolling the casino floor as usual. Get a call on the radio to head to the hotel. There was an incident and they need a security person to debrief police on the hotel security. Friend enters the room in question. Black vomit everywhere, blood spray in the bathroom, and a trail leading to the window. Long rope dangling from windowsill. Rope snapped, and a battered body is 100 feet below on the pavement. Friend starts to nope, but has to tough it out to talk to cops. Shaken by the experience, he asks for the night off. Takes it easy for the next week, but can't shake images out of his head. A week later, he's walking the casino floor when he sees the same-looking black vomit in a garbage can. There's vomit trails leading outside, finds a pool of blood in the parking lot, radios for support in case it's another incident, discovers a trail of debris leading into the brush that follows this same path. The casino is next to a river, which is where this path leads. Nope. Call the police. Police find a half-dozen briefcases sitting next to the river, outside battered and bloody. All of them were Asian men who left their IDs and clothes neat and tidy in the briefcases. Bodies were never recovered. My friend never had an incident again, but nobody rents that first room anymore. The casino has had hauntings ever since.
I was a reserve deputy a few years ago. Here's some of the stuff that stick out. The drug war went on for about a month and a half between these wannabe mobsters. They harmed more innocent people up by accident than each other. Things like doing a drive-by on the wrong house that wasn't even involved in drugs, blowing up cars in the middle of the day. Finally ended when one of the self-proclaimed godfathers was killed in a home invasion. It was suspected it was the neighborhood folk getting sick of his shit, but we couldn't prove it. Case of a missing kid. Kid is found murdered in a ravine near a school bus stop. The killer was another kid at the foster house they all stayed at. Foster houses are screwed up BTW. We had more problems there than anywhere else when it came to neglect and abuse. One of the drug dealers from the gang war was missing. Later found tied to a chair and tortured to death in the woods. The talk was he pissed off some rival from out of town. Never found out who. One detective I knew was part of the sex crimes unit. We were a smaller department, so detectives spent lots of time involved in multiple units. He tried to help some women get away from her abusive boyfriend. She was laying low at his house. Boyfriend shows up and gets into a shootout with the det. Boyfriend gets shot, runs away, later arrested at the hospital. The same woman had a sister who went missing for a year and a half. Her boyfriend pulled the company thing on her. It's when somebody kidnaps a person and says they are part of a company of politicians and cops who know what's going on, but are in on it and will kill your family if you leave. It was BS, of course, and eventually they found her. Her kidnapper knew the abusive boyfriend, so there was speculation it was an idea they both had. Get a call about a home intruder. Search the house and find nothing. On the way out, we hear footsteps upstairs even though we checked it already. Check again, find nothing. Hear muffled sniffling and crying, but it sounds hysterical. Go downstairs and tell the homeowner there's no need to be upset. What are you talking about? I wasn't crying. Check the house again, still nothing. A friend of mine checks the history of the house because why not? A teenage girl self-ended herself in the upstairs bathroom back in the 60s. Another. The cop gets shot by a robbery suspect. Nothing serious. His vest caught most of it, but he did have a bullet graze his temple. In and out of consciousness, being put in the ambulance. Before they close the doors, I see his eyes widen. Holy shit, holy shit. Doesn't sound scared, but in awe. EMTs are telling him to come down and he'll be okay. He dies, but he's still staring with wide eyes. He tells me and only me later what happened because he thinks I'm soft-spoken and won't tease him. Saw the ghost of the first murder victim he ever dealt with years ago. Battered wife staring at him outside of the ambulance, still bloody and bruised like the day he found her, like something out of The Sixth Sense.
I live in rural Sweden and grew up here with my dad, who is a cop. For the most part, he worked as a patrolling officer, and he moved around quite a lot between the different districts, or whatever you call them. Nowadays, he's just doing paperwork until retirement. He's told me a few stories. Mid-90s, he's working in and around a small town, and my mom and I live there. Lots of small independent farmers around it. Many are quite old as well. On my way to and from school, I biked by a small farm every day. Apparently only one old dude lived there, never saw him doing any real work. He had a few sheep at most. Every time I met him, he always wanted me to come in and have some cake. Always refused. I was a quiet kid and didn't like strangers, and didn't even consider Minecraft YouTubers at the time. See less and less of him until I haven't seen him for weeks. And that was it for a few years. When I was in my late teens, I asked my dad about it. Thought the old farmer was an EDP, hadn't realized it back then, and wondered if they had arrested him for fiddling with some kid. Dad tells me no. He continued telling me that he had been called over to check in on the man because some neighbor noticed his sheep weren't being taken care of, left out in the rain and during the night. Dad knocks on the door, no answer. Volvo is still parked on the driveway. Look through the windows. Sees the old man sitting with his back turned in a chair. Dad fears the worst and breaks the door lock. Find the old farmer disemboweled in his chair, knife lying on the floor. Dad told me he had been like that for a week at least and refuses to tell me more when I ask him to. But apparently the old guy had some uncared-for mental issues, so he gutted himself. Pretty shocking when I heard it at first. Didn't cause that much of a ruckus as far as I know. Guess it was just ruled as self-termination.
Not Leo, but used to work in private security from 2008 to 2012. The first 2 years, I mostly had shifts patrolling this huge ass-country estate, PIC-related, with several big manors. You couldn't mention the place around the office without someone piping in about how the place is haunted and about their experiences with hauntings there. I always called bullshit, not one to believe in the supernatural, but I have had some freaky experiences there. Winter, night shift, sitting in the patrol car in a parking lot on my break, eating a sandwich and drinking coffee. Letting the car run because it's cold. Someone knocks twice on the rear window. Startled, hit the pedal to the metal and do a quick burst forward. Coffee and sandwich spill on my lap, causing me to nearly hit a lamppost. Come out from the car, nightstick in hand and ready to fuck up whoever had the poor judgment to disturb my brake. Fucking nothing. No other tracks on the snow than the ones from my tires. Didn't need coffee to stay awake for the rest of the night. Later summer. Night shift. Same parking lot, see some old cunt trotting along the road. Step out from the car, stop him, assume he's trespassing. Realize he's really old, my grandpa. The 90-year-old World War II veteran didn't look as old as this guy. Says he's been given permission to be on the grounds from the head of the house. Tell him to wait to get his ID out. I have a clipboard in the car with all the permitted visitors on it. Take a few steps before I remember that head of the house is what they used to call the guy who had the estate built, and whose family owns it to this day, and who died in 1896. Turn around. You guessed it, old guy's nowhere to be seen. And this is Finland. It never gets dark here during the summer. So unless the fossil sprinted 300 meters in 3 seconds or had optical camouflage, he just disappeared. Asked the boss the next day if I could be transferred to some other shift. No. Fall. Night shift. Making my rounds around one of the manors, checking that all the doors are locked. I think I hear rustling. Take out my maglite flashlight, scanning the surroundings. Keep walking around the manor. Suddenly a dark figure comes at me from some bushes. Has something in its hand that's glowing red. Already jumpy, nearly whack it with the maglite. Turns out it's some shaggy-ass hippie scientist. The red glow comes from a device that captures ultrasounds. He's out recording bat sounds. Throw this dark brown motherfucker out from the grounds with the force of 1,000 suns.
Not a cop, but when I was in school to get into the federal level of law enforcement, I got a job working private security in a few places. One of them was in Hollywood. No, I didn't part with any celebrities. I worked a handful of events, though. None of my stories are paranormal, but they're weird and funny as hell. First client I ever got. Since I had no prior Leo or military experience, I had to start at the very bottom. This meant babysitting rich, spoiled people, or more likely their kids. First girl I get is your typical dumb blonde valley girl from rich parents. I'm literally there to make sure this barely functioning fool doesn't get kidnapped because of her party lifestyle. First day, I took her to the mall to be with her friends. Spending more money than I've ever seen, she's going through money like a drug lord. Says she needs to go to the bathroom and to wait. It was a ruse. I lost her. Panicking, thinking this is going to maybe land me in jail and I should have never done this, try to remember everything I saw on Law & Order about detective work. Get a list of her friends and start calling them. Find out there's a party in some abandoned building turned club. Go there, find her in a back room, half naked on a pool table, surrounded by trust fund babies and 2 tables full of every kind of drug you can imagine. Some I didn't even know existed. Dump her dumb ass in the car. Let her sober up at an IHOP. When she wakes up, I'm fully expecting a moment of, wow, I really need to get my life together. Instead I got, God damn it, it happened again, didn't it? After 3 months and 4 more incidents like that, I quit and moved on to a new client.
Hi there. I'm sorry for not greentexting. I don't know how to do it. Let's go straight to the subject. I have been a law enforcer in an Eastern European country for about 3 years now, also a K9 handler. I also do lots of night shifts, but never experienced something unexplainable or paranormal. Except for this one time when I got a call about a deceased person. I was still under training and training in my town's police department, so this guy calls 112, our emergency number, and says that his uncle may be dead. His uncle lived with his son, who was a mentally ill person, and the caller used to visit them once in a while to see if they are both okay. This time his uncle's son did not grant him access in the house, and this seemed kind of suspicious. So we rolled in, trying to convince the lunatic to let us in to see if his father was okay. He was talking to us through the gate of his house and didn't want to let us in. I was 19 at the time, and my partner was like 40, so I jumped the fence and entered the yard and then opened the gate for my partner. Firstly, I was shocked by the appearance of the crazy person. He smelled horrible and admitted to not taking a bath in years and changing his clothes for months. Also, he hadn't shaved for months or even years, and his beard and hair were very dirty to the point that you couldn't tell if that was actually hair. So I entered their home and headed for the old man's room. No answer from inside, and the door was locked. I said, fuck it. We won't wait for the firefighters to come and bust the door open, so I cracked a small window from the door, introduced my hand and opened it. After I cracked the small window, the smell of rotten corpse invaded my nostrils, and I knew the old man was dead for a while. My partner didn't like seeing dead people, and the smell made him puke, so only I entered the room, and he remained outside to guard the lunatic. The corpse was lying in his bed, bloated and black, seemed like he died weeks ago. It was the first corpse in this stage that I saw. I will remember this forever. There were no signs of aggression on him, no signs of struggle in the room, and also he was locked on the inside. Poor bastard had heart problems and probably had a heart attack. In my country, in this cases, you don't need to call the CSI, as it wasn't a suspicious death. You only need to contact his personal doctor to release a death certificate, and then call somebody to get the corpse picked up. So I started searching for his ID and the number of his doc through his staff, lockers, clothes, etc. Suddenly the radio, which was plugged in, started by itself at full volume. I tried many times to find an explanation for this. Maybe I touched it, maybe I tripped on the wire, but that was not possible as I was in the other part of the room. Maybe it was broken, but the fact that it started playing at that moment was strange. Also, nobody could have touched me as my partner and the crazy dude went outside, and in the room there were only us, the corpse and I. It sent chills through my whole body. I looked at the corpse, plugged out the radio, and got the fuck out of the room, never returning. My partner also heard the music and asked me what the F was I doing in there. Maybe there is nothing paranormal about it, but the circumstances make this story strange and scary. Sorry again for not green texting. Have a nice day.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel, as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember to check the Odyssey and Rumble pages for separate archives of previous broadcasts.